Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the topic of my last interview. And if you were unable to listen and would like to hear that episode, links can be found on my YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. And if you'd like to receive notifications on when our podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. Now, let's learn a little bit about my guest today. KM Service was founded by Kathleen Ribeiro, a business professional with a passion for helping female entrepreneurs create effective systems in their businesses. Her unique approach is centered around creating custom-fit systems and processes that reflect the unique needs and goals of each individual business owner. Through her guidance and expertise, Kathleen helps women to streamline their operations, increase efficiency, and achieve the growth and success they desire. In her leisure time, Kathleen enjoys indulging in a good book, taking nature walks with her pups, savoring a freshly brewed cup of coffee, or unwinding with a well-deserved glass of wine. These passions bring balance to her life and help Kathleen stay grounded. So, Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Candy. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you on today too. I'm looking forward to our discussion. But before I get into any questions on the topic, I would love for you just to share a little bit more about yourself and how did you become involved with helping entrepreneurs in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually come from a background in the auto industry. So I ran an auto body shop for 10 years. And the big thing with that was, clients and customers. We want to make sure our customers feel welcome and seen. So when I finally took a step back and decided to go into KM Service, my thing is, how can I make the client journey just impeccable, where they want to come back and they want to make sure that, there's references and stuff like that. So for me, systems was a big thing. And it's like, how can we create a system that not only gives us time back as business owners, but how do we make it focus around the customer and the client? From the beginning to end, all of your systems should be focused around your client journey. And I found that the easier you make it for clients, the easier it is for you. And it's so cool. I love the background. I love the tech that goes into it, because not only am I helping the client, but I'm also helping the business owner get their time back, have that freedom, but also creating a great journey for their client.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've heard you just say that too. Everything should be around your client journey. And we understand like systems that have, information for clients or things like that too should be important. But are you saying that every system that's in your business really should be thinking about the client, even if it's something internal only?
So when you think of it, so let's say project management, right? Your client most likely isn't looking at your project management. But if you have a good project management, you're going to be able to delegate. So that gives you more time to be with your client or get more clients. If you have a good project management system, you are on top of things. You're not letting things slide. So at the end of the day, your client is going to be like, hey, can I get an update? Hey, this is late, because your back end is so well maintained that delegating timelines, tasks are all being done in an efficient manner. And that's all going to go back to your client.
Mm-hmm. Right. That makes sense. I just hadn't really heard that before, where like everything, because you might have a process in place for, how to do like your email, which of course is kind of client interaction on some of that, but some of it may not. But anyway, it was just interesting that you brought that up, and it made me think for a second. So I would love for you to talk about, first of all, just for someone who's listening, who maybe they're just starting a business and they're not sure everything that they need, or maybe there's someone who's thinking, well, I need to update some of my systems so they're more efficient. Like, what are the essential systems that they really need to have in place for them to be successful?
So I could go on for days, but I won't. I will start with project management. Even if you are starting off, you are a solopreneur, you're not looking to scale anytime soon. If you start with a solid project management tool, you will allow yourself to be able to grow and scale in the future. So having a place for all of your tasks, all of your business information, any standard operating procedures, starting off with the basics in there will then allow you to grow. So I would definitely say organizing your business. And then from there, you're going to want to have a website. I know a lot of people don't think that's a system, but a lot of your systems are within your website. So you want to have a nice website. I say a CRM, customer relationship management. So that way, if they are on your website, they click a button and they can book a call with you, or they can have a lead capture. So that way you're getting to know them. So start with your project management, make sure you have a website that has your CRM, and then also collect email. So email marketing, again, it's going to be on your website. It's going to be a link. That way you are growing your audience organically, and you know they want to be there if they're signing up to get emails, newsletters, and stuff like that. So I would definitely start with those of just the basics of kind of starting, and then you're going to grow, right? And then you're going to find that you need more systems, or you need to upgrade your systems. And then before you put your systems live, especially anything that's client facing, pretend you're the client, right? Go through your CRM system, go through your scheduling, go through your email marketing as the client, to be like, oh, I missed something, or, oh, something is spelled wrong. So that way, when it is client facing, they're like, wow, this person has their business together.
I mean, and technology is ever evolving. And I was thinking while you were talking too, when I first started, a lot of this wasn't even available. I've been doing business now for 20 years. So project management really wasn't what it is today. And even one system I started using years ago, they actually aren't even in business anymore. And we had to transition to someone else, but there may be, something better along, in the future. So like, how does an entrepreneur even know, first of all, what software to maybe start using now? And maybe when is it time to transition to something else because there's something that's more efficient or has more of what they need? Like, it just can seem overwhelming sometimes with everything we do as entrepreneurs to have to think about the technology and the systems.
Oh, for sure. So, there's, like you said, there's so much out there. I would take a look at maybe like YouTube, right? Go on YouTube and be like, project management for service providers, or the best project manage for this, just to get a background to see what's out there, right? And then you're going to want to compare them. Is this within my budget? So if you're just starting off, you probably want something that's free or has a free trial where they have the basic features, and you kind of go from there. So not only are you going on YouTube to make sure that you get a gist of things, and then you're going to want to actually go into it. I would definitely start with something that is free or has a free trial so you can play around in it. You want to make sure that the way it looks makes sense to you. So a big one is, between ClickUp and Asana. Asana as a project management tool, super straightforward. If you're a straightforward person, you just need kind of a list, maybe a different view, that's something that you're going to look at. If you like ClickUp, it's because you have multiple views. You like that things are colorful. You can automate things. So if you're starting off and don't know what to do, I would definitely take a look at what options are out there. Like I said, YouTube is free. You can have people do reviews. You can take a look at things, see if it works. If you're small, maybe you are using something that is a one person, but then it allows you to grow if you ever want to pay for it or your business grows. Take a look at all the features, make sure it makes sense. And if they have features, is there enough features that maybe you can get rid of a system, right? Instead of having too many systems. If something does it all, be like, well, it's a little bit pricier, but I get to get rid of two systems. It works out in the end. So look at budget, look at features. And if you're small, does it make sense as a solopreneur? Does it have an option for me to grow as a business and add team members and stuff like that? So that's kind of where I would start.
I know when we received notification that the system we had been using, they were going to be shutting down. I think they gave us a month or two of notice. I forget exactly how long it was. It was quite a few years ago. But what we did was identify things that we really liked about that software too, in general, and some maybe some needs that we really still needed certain things, like we needed it to automatically repeat the task when we marked it as complete, or, just different functions. And then we had some things that maybe we'd like, maybe we didn't have to have, but, ideally. And then I actually assigned a different project management software to a different employee, and I wanted them involved, right? So that because they're the end user in the long run too, right? That they would see what did they like, what did they not like. And then we identified the top two, and then they tried those, and in the long run, that's how I made a decision too. So I think it's helpful too, at least from my experience, if you have staff, to have them involved if they're going to be using it as well, so they can give your feedback, and maybe they're thinking of something that you're not thinking of, right? Instead of you having to figure it out all on your own.
Yeah. And then what's perfect is, like I said, a lot of these softwares have a free trial or a free version of it. So you can use it for, a week, a month, have your team members use it, and then always ask for feedback, especially if you do have team members or you're working with contractors. If they're like, I really don't like this and I don't know how to use it and it's just too complicated, that's valuable feedback to be like, okay, let's try something else.
Exactly. That's what we did, free trials, and saw what we liked and didn't like. So we also know too, you can have this technology, but then a lot of it could still be like you're doing things manually, but we've heard automation is the way to go. So, how do we even know what can be automated, what shouldn't maybe be automated, and how do we go about figuring out how to do that properly?
So you're going to want to see so when you go back and you're taking a look at what systems you're using, you're going to see their features. Do they have automations? Great. Anything that you constantly repeat and there's no change to it, automate it. Right? So if you're using project management and if you have a team, so if something leaves copywriting and the copywriter marks it as complete and it always goes to another person, you're going to automate that. So things that are repetitive with no changes, automate it. So if you're using project management, you can automate when tasks change, when assignees change, all that stuff. You're going to automate if it's something you do monthly. So you're going to make sure that the date changes. If you're using a CRM system, if every single time somebody inquires, they automatically get an email saying, thank you for inquiring, then, you're going to automate that. So think of everything that happens and doesn't change, automate it. Now, if there are things that sometimes change, you can still automate it, but maybe put in a task to switch it up before the automation runs. So for like a CRM system, I have a workflow, but I want to make sure that between the email that they get that, thank you, I pause it so that I can take a look at what they wrote down. Do I want to work with them? Are we not a good fit? So there's a pause in my automation. And as soon as I take a look at it, I can then improve it and it keeps going.
And someone might be hearing this and saying, whoa, like I'm already overwhelmed just hearing what she's saying. Like you go into this automation and you pause it and then, so like, what are some tips maybe that you can give to somebody? And keeping in mind, of course, we don't always have to do this all on our own, but, some things that they can maybe learn about the software and the technology and what they might want to continue doing on their own, what they might want to offload to team members or maybe someone outside their company. But how do they even know how to handle all of this?
So you're going to go to YouTube, right? And you're going to say, what can I automate in whatever system it is? Just because YouTube, again, is free, you don't have to hire anybody to tell you. You're going to and it has so many videos. So you're going to go in and you're going to be like, how do I automate this, right? And if you're going to go through it and you're like, nope, I refuse to do it, whatever, that might be something you outsource to start the automation, or somebody that maintains anything that's automating or processes, workflows. But stick to one thing at a time. I can sit here and be like, you can automate X, Y, and Z. Start with something, again, that's super repetitive. One thing that's super repetitive in your business that for a fact, you don't have to do this all the time. Nothing changes. Start there and then slowly add more automations. The other thing with automations and or delegating it to a team member or outsourcing, how much time does it take you to get it done? If it's taking you an hour to do something, but for a fact it can take somebody 5 minutes, don't do it. Delegate it. Outsource it. If it can be automated, automate it. You know what I mean? If it's something where you have to learn it and you're like, I don't have time to learn it, that's a cue that you should probably have somebody else do it. Or if it's something you just hate, like you do not want to, there's nothing in the world that you want to, like, there's no way you want to do it. You know what I mean? Because that's taking away your energy. You're probably pushing it off and it's not getting done and you know it has to get done. Automate it, outsource it, delegate it. So
Mhm.
if it's something new you don't want to learn, if it's something that takes you too long, or if it's something you just don't like, how can you make it easier?
Mhm. Yep, perfect. So if someone then is thinking of implementing a system or switching again, as we've talked about, maybe they've outgrown what they have and they need to look into another, software. What are some of the pitfalls that might come up and how do they avoid them so it's more of a smooth transition?
It's very overwhelming. If you're looking at tech, if you're looking at systems, there's so much out there. There's so many competitors. So I 100% agree. I understand it is super overwhelming, but I would do what you did, right? Make a list of everything your system does now. Make a list of things I absolutely need and then things that would be nice, needs and wants.
Mhm.
And then like maybe some extra features or, oh, that sounds cool. I never heard of that. And I know it's going to be overwhelming, but make sure your new system has exactly what you want. So if your current system does X, Y, and Z, but you're adding a team member and be like, okay, well, it does X, Y, and Z, but I need to make sure it helps me collaborate with a team
Mhm.
member or, a contractor or something like that. So just take a deep breath. It's going to
Right.
be annoying, but definitely make your list of needs and wants or like whatever might be cool and start slow. Ask other people, ask other entrepreneurs, reach out to me. I don't mind telling you what I think might happen, but definitely get referrals before diving in. If someone's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, I use X, Y, and Z and I love it. Or I love X, Y, and Z, but I don't really like, my CRM. I wouldn't do that. So ask your community, ask your networking, people around you what they're using, and then break it down of, okay, this has exactly what I want, or it doesn't have everything that I want or need.
Mhm. Well, and earlier too, you said if you're a solopreneur right now, but think about software that you're going to need. So when you have a team, that they can come on and use it. So what would you say to someone who is thinking of, starting a process, but they don't have anyone else yet in terms of documenting how things should be done? So when they do bring someone on to that they could follow the same system and process, or, maybe it's a company that's already got team, but maybe they don't have it all spelled out and maybe people aren't doing things the same way. Like how can they make sure that this is being done correctly and efficiently, and everyone knows what to do?
For sure. So even if you're a solopreneur, you're thinking about a business, you're kind of
Mhm.
getting things done, record it, right? Because when you do start delegating and you're growing, you're obviously not going to be able to do it yourself. And if you are a business owner, even if it's you're a solopreneur, you have to think, I'm going to grow so big one day, I can't do this. And that
Mhm.
has to be your thought in the beginning. So you're going to have to write down your SOPs or your standard operating procedures for all of your processes. So two things I've actually mentioned the other day on social media was one is making a loom or a video of what you're doing, right? So that way, when you do decide to delegate it and be like, hey, this is how you get it done. Here's a video of me getting it done. That way, they're not only physically seeing what you're doing, but you're talking about it. You're walking them through. You're letting them know, you do this because of this to give them context, which is great. And then another way of doing it is the old fashioned having a written document of it. I do recommend using an extension called Tango, like the dance. It's
Mhm.
orange. You can add it to your browser. And what it does when you turn it on is every click that you do, anything that you write in, it kind of captures it. And
Mhm.
at the end, it gives you the SOP that you can then edit and make sure you can add extra comments or change things. And then it gives you your SOP. So there's screenshots, there's, clicks and everything. So start that now. Whatever process you're getting done, have it written somewhere. Video, physically written down, however it is. Because when you decide to grow and add somebody, you're going to be like, I've never written this down. Or you're going to be like, I've done this so many times. I don't know how to explain it to someone.
Mhm.
So definitely
Exactly.
start now because you are going to grow, you're going to scale, your business is going to be successful. So set it up now.
Perfect. We've been doing that a lot too, with especially like videos on tasks that we're, doing. And all of my different staff members know, like when you start doing a new account or something, start categorizing the details, for other people who are going to come behind you maybe and take over that account at some point, whether you're moving on to something else or, we just reassign employees for whatever reasons. But that's super helpful as well. But I hadn't heard of Tango. I'm going to have them check that out too, because I'm sure that
We
would be
do have a
helpful.
free version.
We'll have to try it. That will be good. And I've also heard of some software too that they all kind of work together. And I haven't always tried all of them, but I've heard you could have Zapier that will do this and it will put this in your CRM or do this or whatever. But sometimes that just seems overwhelming. Or how do I know it's pulling everything correctly and posting things correctly? So how do you even know that, like, what type of software integrates with each other and maybe what would be good to use for your business?
Yeah. So again, when you go back to figuring out what softwares you want to use, not only are you looking at features, you're looking at integrations. So if you're like, I use Google Docs, I use this, I use that, does this integrate naturally with it, right? Without having to use Zapier. If you're using systems where they 100% just won't integrate by themselves and you have to use Zapier, you're going to want to test that, right? So you're going to be like, okay, well, I need this to do this, so I'm going to put a Zap between it. But you're also going to test the Zap. And you're also going to make it one of your repetitive tasks where every month you are testing the Zap to make sure it's working. Even if the day before you got somebody that, the Zap works, you're going to want to use it as a test. You're going to want to make sure that it's working. Maybe it is working, but something's off and you have to go and change it. So I would definitely make it a repetitive task where monthly or quarterly, you're making sure that your Zaps are working. But if you are using a lot of systems, you want to make sure that there's natural integrations beforehand. Not everything will happen, and that's okay. And then that's when you might use Zapier and create a Zap for it.
And like I said, I've heard of that software. I personally haven't used it, but I've heard it can connect to all these different kinds of things. But I guess I don't understand necessarily the concept, and maybe you could take just a minute, or so to explain this in a little bit more detail of how does it integrate, let's say, taking something from your email and putting it into your CRM, or like, how does it even know what data to pull and how to put it into these different systems? Because that's one thing to me that I'm just like, it just seems overwhelming for me to take the time to figure all that out. And is it like beneficial enough to have that? You know what I mean?
So you're going to want patience, which is a lot of people when it comes to tech, they're like, I'd rather not. For my email list, I use MailerLite, but for my website, I use Squarespace. So Squarespace and MailerLite sometimes doesn't connect. So I use a Zap that. If once you put in your email in my website, it zaps and puts you in my mailing list. So what you do when you first go into Zapier, you're going to connect your accounts. You're going to use an API, which is a very intricate code that whatever system you're using will give you the code. Once you connect your system to Zapier, add in the API, you're going to tell Zapier exactly what you want it to do. You're like, I want the newsletter emails to go to the newsletter group in MailerLite. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions. It's be like, where is your newsletter? Which group of your newsletter? Is there anything that excludes it? So it asks you all the right questions to make sure it's using the right thing. So, for forms, so when I'm connecting my Squarespace, it goes, all right, we're in Squarespace. Which form are we using in Squarespace? Is this the correct form? Where is it going in MailerLite? Which group in MailerLite? Then it runs the test for you so you can see if it worked or not. So it is, you have to have patience because sometimes it's not the right form. You got to change things up, but it does ask you the right questions. There are integrations with the API and you're signing into your own account and then they're running the test to make sure it works. Once it works on Zapier, you're going to still want to go back and do an own test for yourself to make sure, okay, it wasn't just like Zapier doing its thing, it's actually working. So give yourself patience, but it does work. It knows exactly what to ask you so that things do run smoothly.
Perfect. Well, I know it can feel overwhelming. Like I said, this especially if someone is kind of technology phobic, right, to really be talking about technology and how it's going to help with systems and processes and things like that too. But it does make it a little bit easier when you can have some things be more efficient and not take as much time and not as much of a manual process. So I know someone who's listening may still feel a little bit overwhelmed, but I think it was a great introduction. We didn't have enough time to go into like tons of detail, but that leads me to asking you if you have an offer that you would like to share with our listeners that they can follow up with you and maybe start to implement in their own business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a guide on making sure that your systems are up to date and that they're working correctly. So I would love to share that. I will shoot over the link so you can grab the guide and making sure that you're utilizing and your systems are working.
Perfect. And if anyone wants to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yes, you can shoot me an email. I will personally respond at Kathleen@kmservice.co, just co, not com. And then shoot me a message on Instagram. It's _KMService.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Kathleen, for being a guest on my show and talking on this topic with our listeners. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Candy. I can go on for days, so I'm glad you gave me a chance to talk about it.
And to the listener, thank you for tuning in as well. I hope you found this discussion interesting, gave you a little bit of an introduction to the topic if you're new to technology, or maybe gave you some additional information to help you in your business on the topic systems needed for a thriving business. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Kathleen, or you can send us a message at media@abandp.com. I hope you can join me for my next interview. And remember, you can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and my website is abandp.com. Remember, you can find the show, Biz Help for You, on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And would you please share my show with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? I'd really appreciate your support. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.